They lied and chose a sister while she hosted dinner, so she exposed the truth, cut off, and took back her own life publicly. Fallen leaves danced in the chilly November wind through the residential neighborhood in the Boston suburbs. Linda Foster gazed out the kitchen window and sighed deeply. This season, when the trees changed from vibrant autumn colors to brown, was her favorite time of year. As Thanksgiving approached, her desire to cherish family warmth grew stronger. "Mom, what do you think of this centerpiece?" Linda turned around to see her 17-year-old daughter, Caitlin, holding up a handmade decoration. It combined pine cones, red autumn leaves, and small pumpkins beautifully tied together with ribbon. A perfect adornment for their Thanksgiving table. "It is lovely, Kate. You always create something beyond my imagination." Linda smiled and touched her daughter's cheek. Caitlin had her mother's brown curly hair and clear blue eyes, but her keen observation skills and creativity were uniquely her own. In the 5 years since the divorce, Linda and Caitlin had deepened their bond, supporting each other through life's challenges. "This Thanksgiving, I want to make sure Grandma, Grandpa, and Aunt April are happy," Caitlin said, as she carefully placed the decoration on the table, especially Aunt April. "Nothing pleases her unless it is perfect." Linda bit her lip gently. Caitlin's words carried a hint of sarcasm, but they were not untrue. Her sister April had built a successful career at a prestigious Boston real estate company. Though single with no children, April's career achievements and luxurious lifestyle were constantly praised by their parents, Warren and Martha. "April just sees things in her own way," Linda said kindly. Inwardly, she had to admit she was tired of the complicated relationship with her sister. April seemed to look down on Linda for working as a regular accountant and living with her daughter in an old colonial-style house. Linda's smartphone chimed with a message from her mother. "Linda, can you make this year's turkey a small organic one? Last year's was too big. Also, April says we need some gluten-free side dishes." "Thanks." Linda sighed. This was the third request for menu changes. She took pride in hosting Thanksgiving dinner each year, delighting her family with traditional recipes. But April's suggestions for upgrades kept increasing. "Another change?" Caitlin asked, reading her mother's expression. Did not Aunt April claim she became gluten-sensitive last year too? But then she ate plenty of bread at Grandma and Grandpa's house at Christmas. Linda admired her daughter's sharp observations but maintained her composure. People's food preferences change. We just need to prepare a dinner everyone can enjoy. However, deep inside, Linda felt a subtle tension about the family gathering. Her parents always prioritized April, proudly discussing her successes while remaining indifferent to Linda's efforts and achievements. This tendency seemed to have grown stronger after her divorce, as if her failed marriage were evidence of poor judgment. "Mom, are you making that pumpkin cheesecake again this year?" Caitlin's voice interrupted her thoughts. Linda smiled again. "Of course. It is your favorite, is not it? It is a recipe passed down from my grandmother." Caitlin beamed. She loved her mother's cooking skills and had a special attachment to the family recipes. Linda headed to the kitchen and began preparing the ingredients. Cooking for her was not just a chore, but a form of expressing love. She believed that the feelings infused into the flavors could speak more eloquently than words. By dusk, Linda and Caitlin were reviewing their Thanksgiving preparation list. Turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, sweet potato casserole, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie, and the newly added gluten-free stuffing. "Perfect." Linda nodded, looking at the list. "This Thanksgiving is going to be special." Caitlin gazed at her mother and quietly said, "Mom, just the two of us is special enough. The others—" She paused momentarily, searching for words. "Whatever they think does not matter to us." Linda felt a warmth in her chest at her daughter's wisdom. Young as she was, Caitlin understood the family dynamics. She probably noticed what Linda pretended not to see. "You make me proud, Kate." Linda smiled gently. The two continued their preparations under the kitchen light. On the surface, they were preparing for a peaceful, happy family gathering, but underneath lay unspoken tensions and secrets. 1 week before Thanksgiving, Linda sipped her coffee while gazing at the misty Boston streets. The kitchen counter was already spread with Thanksgiving ingredient lists and an open traditional recipe book, a treasure passed down from her grandmother to her mother, and then to her. Her smartphone's ringtone pierced the quiet morning air. It was a message from April. Linda, please do not add any nuts to the stuffing this year. I recently had an allergy test and reacted to walnuts and pecans. Also, can you make the gravy with gluten-free flour? Linda frowned. Her stuffing followed an unchanged recipe from her grandmother's time, with walnuts and sage creating its distinctive flavor. Nevertheless, thinking it was for family's sake, she began considering alternatives. As she adjusted her recipes, the phone rang again. This time, it was her father, Warren. Linda, your mother wants you to go easy on the butter this year. Her cholesterol test came back a bit high. Also, the doctor told me to watch my salt intake. We are counting on you for Thanksgiving dinner. Linda took a deep breath and replied, I understand, Dad. Health comes first. After hanging up, she stared at the recipe book, contemplating how to modify the flavorful recipes that had been passed down for generations. A Thanksgiving dinner low in salt, light on butter, without nuts, and gluten-free. It was far from the tradition she cherished, but she reconsidered for the sake of family. Mom, you look troubled, said Caitlin, putting down her backpack as she returned from school. Linda explained the situation to her daughter. Caitlin listened silently, but doubt clouded her blue eyes. Hey Mom, did not Aunt April eat walnut brownies at last year's Christmas party? And did not Grandma and Grandpa both eat buttermilk cake at Grandma's birthday last month? Linda paused thoughtfully. Caitlin's observations were accurate. However, to avoid conflict, she smiled and answered, Maybe everyone is becoming more health conscious. As we age, we need to be more careful about certain things. Caitlin said nothing, but that evening she opened a new notebook and began writing. She meticulously checked April's social media posts, saved screenshots, and created a folder titled Family History Project. 3 days before Thanksgiving, as Linda was doing a final check of the ingredients, she received a call from her mother, Martha. Linda, I hate to ask, but could you make apple pie instead of pumpkin pie this year? April says pumpkin is hard on her digestion. Linda could not hide her surprise. But pumpkin pie is our family tradition. I have been making it every year using Grandma's recipe. I know, dear, but a change might be nice this year. April is bringing special organic apples. Linda silently nodded and ended the call. She gazed at the family photos hanging on the kitchen wall, remembering how pumpkin pie had been featured in every Thanksgiving picture for the past decade. Somehow, this small change brought her an overwhelming sense of loss. That evening, Caitlin quietly observed her mother reviewing recipes. She checked April's Instagram on her smartphone and found a post from 3 days ago. April and her friends were drinking pumpkin spice lattes at an upscale restaurant. The caption read, Fall flavors are the best. Love pumpkin. Caitlin recorded this discovery in her notebook, but said nothing to her mother. Instead, under the guise of a school project, she began collecting family photos, letters, and event records from the past few years. The day before Thanksgiving, Linda's kitchen was filled with the aroma of spices and baked goods. Following the modified menu, she had done her best with the preparations. The nut-free stuffing lacked fragrance, but she compensated with extra herbs. The gluten-free gravy lacked consistency, but she simmered it longer to create richness. And in place of the traditional pumpkin pie, she carefully crafted an apple pie. Mom, this is really a lot of work, Caitlin said while helping prepare the cranberry sauce. But it is for family, Linda smiled. I hope April, Dad, and Mom will enjoy it. Just then, Linda's smartphone pinged. It was a message from April. I will come a bit early tomorrow. Anything I can help with? Linda felt genuinely happy for the first time in a while. It was rare for her sister to offer help. She replied with gratitude. Thank you, April. I would appreciate help with the table setting. Caitlin made a beautiful centerpiece. The reply came promptly. Of course, looking forward to it. Linda smiled contentedly alone in the kitchen. Despite all the changes, tomorrow would be a special day when the family gathered together. She placed the specially purchased turkey by the windowsill and arranged the side dishes she had been preparing all day in the refrigerator. Meanwhile, in the living room, Caitlin quietly continued working on her laptop. She saved a document titled Plan A and smiled secretly. Her observational skills and planning were sharper than her mother realized. For the past 6 months, she had been recording family behavior patterns and had reached a decision, one she intended to keep from everyone, especially her mother. As the night deepened, Linda and Caitlin completed the final preparations. their hearts full of anticipation for tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving morning began with a clear blue sky. The thin layer of snow that had fallen overnight was already beginning to melt, sparkling in the reflected sunlight. Linda had risen early and put the turkey in the oven. Soon the savory aroma would spread throughout the house. "Good morning, Mom." Caitlin appeared in the kitchen in her pajamas, her face showing the excitement of this special day. "Good morning. You are up early." Linda smiled. "I have already put the turkey in. We just need to reheat the side dishes." They checked the day's schedule over breakfast. The family was expected to arrive at 5 post-meridian, and they needed to have everything ready by then. Caitlin would handle the table setting, while Linda made final adjustments to the food after breakfast. Linda showered and changed into a navy dress she had saved for special occasions. Caitlin carefully curled her hair and dressed in a dark blue skirt and cream blouse, a Christmas gift from her mother. Standing side by side in front of the mirror, they looked almost like sisters. "You are truly beautiful, Kate." Linda placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "I am so glad you are my daughter." Caitlin squeezed her mother's hand in return. "And I am so happy you are my mother." By afternoon, Linda was doing a final check of the dishes. Gluten-free gravy, low-salt mashed potatoes, nut-free stuffing, cranberry sauce, roasted vegetables, and the star of the meal, the roast turkey. Everything was perfectly prepared. For dessert, she had the family-requested apple pie and a small pumpkin tart she had secretly made just for Caitlin. Meanwhile, Caitlin was putting the finishing touches on the dining room. She arranged her grandmother's inherited porcelain dishes on a pristine white linen tablecloth and set out the silver cutlery. In the center of the table, she placed her handmade centerpiece. And at each place setting, she added a handcrafted name card with a small message of gratitude. "Kate, this is wonderful," Linda exclaimed as she entered the dining room. "You are like a professional interior designer." Caitlin smiled shyly. "I wanted it to be as good as your cooking." Family photos also adorned the table. Linda's parents' anniversary picture, April's college graduation photo, and a picture of the entire family when Caitlin was a baby. It was a warm space that reflected the passage of time. By 4:30 post-meridian, all preparations were complete. The turkey had gained a perfect golden brown color in the oven, and the side dishes were kept at the right temperature. Linda and Caitlin sat on the living room sofa waiting for the family to arrive. "Do you think Aunt April will really come to help?" Caitlin asked. "Yes," she promised. "I am sure she will come," Linda answered confidently. However, even after 5 post-meridian, no one appeared. Linda went to the window several times to look down the street. The sky was gradually darkening, and street lights began to illuminate one by one. "They must be running late," Linda said, checking the clock. "It could be traffic." At 5:45 post-meridian, Linda's smartphone rang. It was a message from April. Linda opened it with a relieved expression, but as she read on, Caitlin could see the color draining from her face. "What is wrong, Mom?" Linda held her smartphone with trembling hands and said in a choked voice, "April says she is not feeling well and will pass this year." Before those words could fully resonate in the room, Linda's smartphone rang again. This time it was from her parents. The message was brief. "We are going to April's to take care of her, so we cannot make it this year." "Sorry," Linda stood dumbfounded. All the hours of preparation, the heartfelt table setting, and the expectation of time with family, everything crumbled like a castle built on sand. "Mom." Caitlin approached her mother and placed a hand on her shoulder. "It is okay. We can still have a wonderful Thanksgiving, just the two of us." Linda nodded faintly, but tears welled in her eyes. "Yes, let us celebrate, just us." She headed to the kitchen and began to take out the turkey. However, her movements were mechanical, as if she had lost all joy. Caitlin watched her mother with concern when suddenly her smartphone notification sounded. Checking her phone out of curiosity, Caitlin's expression changed dramatically. Her face paled and her hands began to tremble. "Mom," her voice shook. "Mom, this is a live stream right now." Caitlin extended her trembling hand with the smartphone to her mother. Linda put down the knife and took the phone from her daughter. The screen showed the interior of Blue Lily, an upscale restaurant, and the camera captured 3 people seated at a large table: April, Warren, and Martha. They were raising champagne glasses and smiling as they toasted. It was April's Instagram live stream. The smartphone slipped from Linda's hand and fell to the floor. All color drained from her face, and her lips trembled. No words came. She just stood there, stunned. Seeing her mother's state, Caitlin quickly picked up the smartphone. She glanced at the screen and with a determined expression turned it off. "Mom, leave it to me." Her voice was not that of a typical teenager. There was strength and resolve in it. Caitlin went to the living room and retrieved her laptop. Her mother said nothing, just standing there in a daze. "Mom, come here." Caitlin pulled out a chair at the dining table and seated her mother. She opened her laptop and a folder named Family Records. "For the past 6 months, I have been keeping records," Caitlin said quietly, "of how Aunt April and grandparents have been shutting us out." Linda looked at her daughter with confusion. "What do you mean?" Caitlin began opening files. There were chronologically organized photos, screenshots, and copies of text messages. Photos of April at a nightclub with friends on the day she canceled Linda's birthday dinner last year, citing illness. Photos of a wine party at April's apartment on the day her parents claimed they had other plans and missed Caitlin's school concert. And the pattern of Thanksgiving cancellations over the past 3 years. "They have been systematically avoiding us, Mom." Caitlin's voice was calm, but flames of anger burned in her eyes. "Especially Aunt April. She always proposes better places right before family gatherings." Linda silently observed the evidence displayed on the screen. The sensation of long-held suspicions transforming into certainty, a feeling of hurt and betrayal that could not be put into words spread through her chest. "But why?" she finally managed to say. "We are family." Caitlin took her mother's hand. "The real family is right here, Mom, and we will not let them push us around anymore." With a determined expression, she continued quietly. "Starting tonight, let us begin a new tradition, just for us." From the kitchen came the aroma of the perfectly roasted turkey. The table was set with lovingly prepared food and adorned with Caitlin's handmade decorations. It held enough warmth to envelop hearts wounded by betrayal. Linda slowly stood up and took a deep breath. There were tears in her eyes, but her gaze held a new resolve. "You are right, Kate. Let us begin our Thanksgiving." The next morning, Linda woke with a heavy head. Remembering that last night's events had not been a dream, she felt a dull pain in her chest. For years, she had worked to keep family discord below the surface. Believing things would improve eventually, she had maintained her smile and accepted everything. But last night's betrayal was too blatant to ignore. Caitlin was already in the kitchen brewing coffee and preparing toast. Seeing her mother, she offered a warm smile. "Good morning, Mom. Did you sleep well?" Linda gave a wry smile. To be honest, not really. Caitlin placed a coffee cup in front of her mother and sat across from her. Her expression was different from last night, calm. The anger and sadness had disappeared, replaced by confident determination. "Mom, I want to talk about my plan." Linda raised an eyebrow. "Plan?" "Yes. I told you I have been gathering evidence for 6 months. But it was not just for record keeping." Caitlin said quietly, "I have a plan to show them the truth." Linda looked anxiously at her daughter. "Kate, I am not thinking about revenge. They are family and I do not want to destroy our relationship." Caitlin shook her head. "It is not revenge, Mom. It is about revealing the truth. That might be the only way to repair the relationship, and if it cannot be repaired," she faltered momentarily, "at least we will not be pushed around by their convenience anymore." She opened her laptop and showed her mother a document titled Plan A. It was a 2-phase plan. First, compile all the evidence she had collected, records of past lies and betrayals, sarcastic social media posts, family events that excluded Linda, into a digital scrapbook, then reveal it to the entire family at Christmas. "Kate, this is..." Linda searched for words. "Do you really think this is necessary? Mom, remember last night?" Caitlin looked at her mother, with serious eyes. "That was not the first time. They have been alienating us for years, especially Aunt April. She has been controlling grandparents and keeping them away from us. Nothing will change if we continue like this." Linda sighed deeply. Her daughter was right. She had been pretending not to notice the family's attitude for years. How April monopolized their parents' attention and excluded Linda and Caitlin, being accidentally left out of important family events. And above all, last night's blatant betrayal. "How do you plan to reveal it?" Linda quietly asked. A small smile appeared on Caitlin's face. She understood that her mother had already agreed to the plan. "Christmas. Aunt April hosts a Christmas party every year. We should be invited too." They cannot make excuses about being late this year. In mid-December, as expected, an invitation for April's Christmas party arrived. I am hosting a lovely party at my place again this year. Of course, you both should come. But I am having all the food catered, so you do not need to bring anything. Reading the message aloud, Caitlin smiled. Perfect timing. Linda looked at her daughter with slight unease. Are you sure about this? It might permanently damage our family relationships. Mom, the relationship is already damaged, Caitlin said gently. They broke it. We are just pretending not to notice. By facing the truth, we might have a chance to rebuild a real relationship. If not, then there are people we do not need in our lives. Over the next 2 weeks, Caitlin used her after-school hours and weekends to create a presentation titled Family Memories. It was not merely an accusation, but looked like a retrospective of family history. It began with old photos and happy memories, gradually showing how family dynamics changed, how April's attitude shifted after Linda's divorce, how her parents progressively excluded Linda and Caitlin from the family circle, and finally, the decisive evidence of betrayal on Thanksgiving night. What do you think, Mom? Caitlin showed the completed presentation to her mother. Linda went through the slides one by one. They contained painful truths, but were also a record of her life. Well done, Kate, she said quietly, but I wonder if I will have the courage to show this. It will be okay, Mom. I will be right beside you. Caitlin squeezed her mother's hand. Besides, this is for our dignity. On Christmas Eve, Linda and Caitlin headed to April's luxurious home. Snow had begun to fall quietly, and the entire city was adorned with holiday lights. April's house was particularly lavishly decorated, with a large wreath and illuminations greeting visitors. Inside, the place was already bustling with relatives and friends. A grand Christmas tree stood in the living room with mountains of presents underneath. April, wearing a flashy red dress, was entertaining guests as the hostess. Linda, Caitlin, you came. April rushed over upon spotting them. Her attitude was as bright as if she had forgotten the Thanksgiving incident. How was your Thanksgiving? Sorry, I was under the weather. Linda smiled faintly. We had our own enjoyable time. Caitlin took out her laptop from her bag and quietly placed it in a corner of the living room. Her eyes were calm, but internally she was nervous. What was about to happen might significantly change her family's future. Warren and Martha also noticed them and came to greet them. Linda, Thanksgiving was unfortunate, Martha said. April was really feeling unwell and we were worried. Caitlin stood quietly beside her mother, observing her grandparents' faces. She was certain there were lies in their words. April tapped a glass to get everyone's attention. Everyone, it is time for gift exchange. As anticipation built among the guests, Caitlin quietly stood up. Everyone, before that, there is a special presentation. Her voice was small but confident. April looked slightly confused, but allowed her to use the large television in the living room without objection. This is titled Family Memories, Caitlin explained as she connected her laptop to the TV. Let us take a moment to reflect on our family's journey. The first slide appeared. It was an old photo of Linda and April as children. Both were smiling arm in arm, innocently facing the camera. Then photos of happy family memories continued to appear one after another. How lovely. Martha smiled. It brings back memories. However, as the presentation progressed, the atmosphere in the room began to change along with the photos. Dates and records of events started to appear. The first Thanksgiving after Linda's divorce, April's sudden cancellation message, and a photo taken the same day of April and her parents at an upscale restaurant. This is... April's face turned pale. The slides continued showing similar patterns over the past 3 years. Family trips that excluded Linda and Caitlin, text messages making excuses about forgetting important days, and finally the decisive evidence from this year's Thanksgiving, screenshots from April's Instagram live stream. The room fell silent. Linda held her daughter's shoulder with trembling hands, encouraging her. April tried to start making excuses, but Caitlin interrupted her. This is not to blame you, Aunt April. I just want you to realize what family means. Linda quietly stood up and looked into each person's eyes. I have always done everything for the family, but today, I have decided to reconsider what my life and family mean. Her voice was weak but determined. Real family is not just about blood ties. It is about relationships where we cherish and respect each other. From today on, I choose to spend time with people who value me." She took Caitlin's hand and quietly left the room. 1 year later, Linda's house was once again busy with Thanksgiving preparations. But this year was different. Invited to the table were her colleagues, Caitlin's friends, and her new boyfriend, Michael, and his family. They were not related by blood, but they were a true family who respected and supported each other. The relationship with April remained complicated. Since that night, she had attempted to make contact several times, but Linda had drawn clear boundaries. As time passed, April began to reflect on her actions and started therapy. Warren and Martha had also changed. They began trying to restore their relationship with their granddaughter and attended Caitlin's college drama presentation for the first time. Linda and Caitlin cautiously maintained their distance, but gradually resumed contact. And today, April visited Linda's office and sincerely apologized. "For a long time, I have been driven by my insecurities and jealousy, doing terrible things. I am not asking for forgiveness, just if there is a chance to start over." Linda smiled. "It might take time, but let us move forward one step at a time." Looking at the happy faces around the table, Linda and Caitlin exchanged satisfied smiles. They had found a new form of family that valued bonds over blood relations, embodying the true spirit of Thanksgiving.